Come take a look, give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
It's been my great privilege to be invited to the house of Helen and Philippa, who are dear friends and who we celebrated greatly on the 23rd of May. So Helen and Philippa, welcome.
Thank you.
The image that will stick with me to the grave is seeing you pair on the 23rd down there in Ballsbridge. It was just, to me, this is what the day was all about. Have you got over it yet? Has it all sunk in, the importance of it?
I think it's just about sunk in. It's just wonderful, and one of the images that will stick with me was when we were walking around town last week, and we were seeing there were a couple of girls kissing on the street. We saw two guys walking hand in hand, and then just around the corner another couple of guys walking hand in hand. People feel safer. People feel more equal. We even saw a couple of guys walking hand in hand by our front door the other day. You know, that simply, apart from us walking through the estate, occasionally hand in hand, that wasn't seen, and that brought it home to me particularly. The reality that, hey, we've done it. We're equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, it's a matter of I always looked on the world stage. I've been on American blogs and Australian blogs, and it's only just getting to me how important that is. It's sent ripples around the world, and yet we're going, hang on, oh my God, this is real. As Philippa said to me the other day, it's not every day that you change your country's constitution. At least we had a part in that, which was fantastic.
Yeah. To me, I've always been very cynical about Ireland to a certain degree, but what I felt, particularly up at the castle, this is what unity looks like. This is what unity feels like. And when I saw yourself and Philippa down at the ODS, or not at the ODS, at the Ballsbridge Hotel, to me that was unity. Just the image of you two together, that to me was what we were doing in a microcosm instead of division. Was that what you were feeling on the day?
Yeah, we were. Oh, I certainly was. I was so excited about the result for everybody else, and actually, Mick, funnily enough, it didn't sink in fully to me until towards the end of the evening, when we were dancing around and jumping up and down to the brilliant Snow Patrol song, and I collapsed back in my chair at one point, and I just went, oh my God, I am actually going to be able to get my birth cert. Yeah. I'm actually going to be able to take that final step to full acceptance and full transition. Okay, to me, the changing the gender recognition bill and so on is of huge importance, of course, to Ireland, but to me, I've done what I needed to do. I've transitioned fully. I'm in work, everything socially, and so for me, the final step, final hurdle of the birth cert wasn't of huge importance. There's no way I would have divorced Helen to allow me to acquire the birth cert. So
I think you run on a little bit. But no, for me it was a matter of, oh good, now we don't have to fight for that anymore. But I tell you one thing that I found, and it's going through various blogs and things about the word equality and being equal and everything, is we're not just saying we've got it and that's it. I'm seeing a lot of things on the blogs from the people who worked for Yet Equality. We're now saying, okay, now we have to fight for equality for this and equality for that. let's make sure the single parents keep the money, because at age 7, that's when a kid is more expensive. Let's work for equality for travellers. Let's work for equality for those who are on direct provision. And I'm actually seeing a knock-on effect on the blogs, and I think it's a matter of Ireland suddenly realised, hey, we've done this, we've gone onto the world stage, why don't we make the country about equality?
Yes.
And it's a fascinating thing watching it, because that's having its own ripple effects. And now talking about people, are we having a party? Are we going to actually bring people into this party? Are we going to actually go and do something?
Because what I said to people is we actually changed the design of the society that we work in. In other words, we went from what to me was a hierarchical society. In other words, somebody in authority said something and it was passed down the line and we all took it on board. What we achieved, I believe, in May was we ended up with I hate the term, the way it's sometimes bandied about, but we had a conversation and we discovered, well, we don't always necessarily have to agree with each other, but we do have to listen to each other, and that to me was a very important one, because we did listen to each other in enormous numbers. How do you feel about that? Is that what we actually changed, we went from a hierarchical society to a relational society.
I think that was reflected in the numbers who voted, because it captured the imagination. As people have said or written, I think people were saying that the numbers who voted in previous referendums were doing so because it was a political thing. It was a structure thing. Lisbon, the children's referendum, they weren't really engaged in it. This has engaged people, and I think it's, as you said, we've had the conversation, and now I think we've come to the realisation that yes, we can do something about it, and the only way we can do it is to talk to people.
Yeah, I suppose I suppose what I'd second that, of course, and from the canvassing on the doorstep as well, we were engaging far more, I believe, with people, and people had really strong opinions. We had some amusing incidents with people saying, "Oh, if you're from a political party, I don't want to talk to you." We say, "No, this isn't political as such. It's social. It's about the marriage referendum." And suddenly they had opinions, they had an interest, and it was great to be able to engage with people like that.
Did you canvass together?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
If I could step back a bit, because I think the first time I ever saw, because I've never seen you separately in that sense of the word. To me, you are always a unit, and that's why when I saw you, that you're going to continue to be a unit, that to me was the meaning for it all. But when we go back, and I think the first time I came across you as a pair was at the first of the rallies for recognition about 2 years ago, which was outside the Dáil. How important was that you were seen as a unit? Because that to me that would have been the loss if we had had a no vote the other day. Would have been the division that it would have created, particularly among couples like yourself. Was that difficult to do?
I think it was, wasn't it? It was because there were certain family situations that we had to be very careful of. Our daughter was in secondary school, so we had to be careful of her and her privacy, and make sure that the stress that she was feeling as a result of exams and so on wasn't exacerbated by me and my situation and our situation. So we had to be careful about the visibility. So it was a case of choosing very carefully the situations that we were exposing ourselves in. And we wanted to do more. We did as much as we felt we could at the time. Now we're available for hire.
What about yourself, Helen? I mean, did you get particularly singled out? Because most people in Philippa's circumstances were individuals. Most people I know, they're individuals, and although they have undoubtedly would have family there, they were never actually seen as a unit the way you and Helen were. Were you ever singled out in any, oh, what are you doing, you know, were you made in any way feel self-conscious of the support you were giving Philippa?
Not self-conscious. in terms of what other people said to me. It took me a long time to come to terms with Philippa's situation. So, sorry, we have the cat here.
Leave that alone.
There we go. We have the cat here. So we were very aware. I was very aware that we were unusual, that a lot of families break down under the strain of transition. We didn't get to that point. We never got to that point. It was very hard, but we didn't get there. I don't think I was singled out. I don't think people asked me to be up there. It was when I realised the importance of it and becoming more aware of the situation and the challenges and the issues that I started to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I became a lot more active. But as Philippa said, we had to be careful. We were always going in stages. I mean, a number of times we've done a radio interview and it's TV3, weren't you? And we're going, no, that's visibility. Family situation, not just with our daughter, but with other members of the family, not wanting to push them out into it as well, did restrain us at the beginning. But yeah, we're very happy to be accepted as a couple and to be interviewed as a couple and to be seen visible as a couple, because I think it was important to say these are not just individuals who've lost families or who've had to make choices. You can make the choice to stay together, you can make the choice to be a family, and these issues affect families as well as individuals.
Yes, now the reason why I asked that is a couple of years ago when I was working in media with Tenny, I was asked to put out a story about a trans man, and I went to some of the organisations that you would have probably had dealings with, and it was very interesting. It was an angle that hadn't been covered even, and they said, oh no, we're not interested now, can you get me a wife who's with somebody? And I thought, no, we don't need that. So I never even came to you on that one, and that's because it seemed to me they wanted to sensationalise a story like yours. Did that ever arise at any time?
We didn't allow it to arise. Well, I mean, we were, as Helen says, I don't know how many times we were asked to be on TV3 particularly. I think there was even rumours of late or something like that for on occasion. But we never let it get to that stage. We said it's radio, and the likes of Broden in Tenny realised that there was a limit to how visible we wanted to be. So that's the
because it was our lives. We didn't want our lives put out there for show. If we were going to go out there and talk about it, we were going to talk about it with the issues as how it related to us as a family, rather than hi here, let's wave our hands and yes, we're happy. No.
We didn't want sensationalists. We wanted the issues.
It's fascinating you should say that, because when the campaign was on and I was eventually told I had to go out and get some of the no speakers, which I managed to do that because it took an effort, but I did. One of the questions I put to one of the no's, a prominent no speaker, a woman, I said, what would you say are the ingredients or the characteristics that makes for a good relationship? And I had you two in mind. Right. Now, to be fair, maybe the question threw her, but she couldn't really give me a coherent answer. And to me, it's a question that you don't need to answer. You know what a good relationship is. You know what it's all it is. I'm going to put it to you then. Was there ever any time when you thought this is too much?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a relationship takes the good and the bad.
It does,
and it doesn't have to be issues like ours. It can be anything from money to sex to somebody working too hard and not giving time to the family. There are issues that are going to happen in any relationship, and you have to take the decision to deal with them or to give up. And we dealt with them.
I mean, I felt as well. I felt awful at times, pushing, but I knew I had to do that. And no, you're not going to say your favourite line. Give an inch, take a mile. That's what she always says. And I was frustrated that Helen wouldn't accept me fully more. Almost immediately I told her, I said, okay, this is me, and it took her time, and it's taken other family members a lot longer, and some still haven't quite fully grasped the idea. So yeah, there were strains.
Yeah.
Did we ever feel that we were going to break up?
I think any couple that says they don't probably are liars.
Yeah.
Well, it's a matter
it's hard. It's.
If we did, it was at opposite ends. One of us would
Yeah.
feel it one time and the other feel it the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
I think if it ever coincided, it could have been a problem.
It could have been a problem. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a matter of,
Yeah.
you know, if one was pushing, the other was pulling back,
Yeah.
and then vice versa. There were a lot of times when Philippa said, "Look, I'm going to give up on this. It's causing too many problems." And it was those moments I realised, if you go back and try to be the male person you're expected to be, you're gonna disintegrate under the pressure.
Sure.
And so it was at those moments I was like, no, don't, like, just slow it down. And I think it was the fact that Philippa actually took it on board eventually that we needed to slow things down. Let me catch up. We still had Jenny, our daughter, to think about, and you know, we had to take it in stages, and I think that was one of the things that that can cause that kind of breakdown. If unless you take it slowly, unless you can bring everybody with you, the person left behind is basically bewildered by what the heck's going on around them. And I was at times, I was bewildered. And it took me a long time to even meet any of Philippa's friends through Jenny. Once I did, I seemed to fall in very well with them.
You did,
You know, once you get over that first step of meeting and understanding and come to terms and say, oh right, this is just new friends.
Yeah, yeah. So can I ask you then, how did you meet and where did you meet?
We met, as we told Gabriel, on the Late Late Show many years ago. Different story. We met at a StarTrek convention in
My
Leeds.
word. Where was that?
In Leeds.
Uh-huh.
Dragon Hour Hotel in Leeds city centre, and we had a mutual pen pal, Star Trek fan, and she mentioned that she had another friend, Helen, who was going to be at the convention as well, and we went along and became very, good friends quickly enough. There was a small group of us, and
The romance came later.
the romance came later. Yeah, the romance came later.
So was the original romance with William Shatner and
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Leonard Nimoy and
Leonard,
DeForest Kelly for me.
yeah, it's still the finest series, I'm afraid. In my estimation, Bill Shatner can do no wrong.
I think that experience of being Star Trek fans and infinite diversity and infinite combinations, all that kind of thing, just puts us kind of a different angle on things. We always enjoyed things out of the box.
Yeah, except I suppose, and this was interesting to me during my transition, and I was very involved in science fiction fandom, a bit like I was with Tenny as well. Show me a committee and I joined it, and I ended up being very involved with science fiction conventions and organisations and so on. But then I found the pressure of my transition becoming too much, and I dropped back hugely. I basically went out of sight from the science fiction community. And when I reintroduced myself, the open-mindedness that I had seen in the community wasn't quite there. It was...
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was, I have to say, disappointed. Not now, believe me, there were lots of people that were very accepting, but I was expecting almost universal acceptance, and I didn't get that.
Yeah. Can I then put something to you, Philippa, the other way, is that Helen came here. Now, I've migrated to 3 or 4 different countries, and it's always difficult, particularly when you come to somewhere and everything's relatively the same. We speak the same language, we eat the same food, we have the same vegetation and all of that. But there's always, dare I say it, a transition when you migrate. Were you ever conscious that Helen was having to make adjustments just to come here and live with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Helen was lucky enough in that she had a transportable job, whereas I was an Irish civil servant.
Yeah.
And was only later that I got a qualification in land surveying, but which would have been transportable. But yeah, as you say, I mean, there were a lot of similarities, but some differences as well. But hey, we were young. We could cope with change and so on. Of course, yeah, there was a little bit of a transition for Helen as well, moving to Ireland. I mean, that's more one for you, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. How did you find it when you came here then, Helen? Because when was this? Was this the 80s, the 90s?
Mid-80s.
Yeah, so I mean, it still wasn't a great place to be British, really, was it? Did you ever feel any animosity, I mean, which would have, can often put strains on a relationship? Were you ever made to feel unwelcome for just being who you were?
No, I was never made to feel unwelcome. The troubles were still going on, so my family was a bit worried me coming over here. And I had a couple of job offers, one in Ballinasloe and one in Cork, and I took the one in Cork. And my mother was very pleased. She said she was too near the border, Ballinasloe, and too near that area. I think Sligo as well. So she was happy that I was right down in Cork until we found out that the village next to where I was living was actually known as a Republican village. She didn't realise that. My main problem was, with all due respect to my Cork friends, coming straight from Yorkshire into a place and trying to cope with reading the Irish names and the Irish places and coping with the Cork accent. It was a bit hard. There was, as you say, a lot of similarities, a lot of differences, and in fact something that reflects on our current situation and the recent referendum was, I was in Cork when we had the divorce referendum, as far as I remember.
Okay.
And I remember, you know, kind of being a Brit in Ireland, thinking, but we've had divorce back over home for years. No, what's this about? So the introduction to the Irish propensity for referendums for changing everything, whereas the last referendum in the UK was 1975, and that was to try and get out of the EU, and they didn't do it, and they're doing it again. So that was the kind of change. But we still had punts or pounds, so I was very happy with the coinage.
Were you surprised by the Irish capacity for bloodletting? Because I had just come back here in 1995 when we had the divorce referendum, and we couldn't believe it as well, you know, that everywhere else has addressed this issue a long time ago, and here it was like, that, you know, if this goes through, we're going to die. And but moving on to the current referendum, clearly you were very, very active in that. Were you ever at any time made feel inadequate, second class or anything like that? Because there were some dreadful things being said during that referendum.
Yeah, there was.
Well, I got sentences thrown at me. I was canvassing on one night and it knocked on the door, and I think there'd been a football match on, and the man came out and shouted, "I want to sit down and watch TV, I'm not having you." Obscenities coming around and talking to me about this stuff. Now, it was earlier on. We started canvassing with Dublin South West in something like February, going into March, so we were one of the first ones to start canvassing, so they possibly didn't think they were happy. But there were a lot of good things, but yeah, there was a lot of nastiness as well on the doorsteps. That was one of the major ones I heard that was actually nasty. But some of our other colleagues on the campus got really bad.
I think the guys got it more than women out canvassing, in that they were called paedophiles, they were called rapists, everything. It was pretty horrendous, some of the stuff that they were getting. Whereas women, we tended to I just maybe get doors slammed in our face, or just be told, no, I'm not interested, or it's disgusting, or whatever. That was about the limit of what we got.
Was that in this neighbourhood, or was that in this neighbourhood, or was it out?
Variable,
yeah. We found, it was interesting, Mick. We found that the if you like, the more disadvantaged areas were
less affluent.
Yeah, were very supportive.
That's it. Yes, it's interesting you should say that because
Yeah.
my daughter canvassed in Ballyfermot,
Yeah.
and she was saying it was very, very supportive out there. And I said, yes, just as long as we can get them to vote,
Yes.
that's all that matters. And
Yeah.
that was generally what I was hearing,
Yeah.
and that was reflected ultimately in the vote. That must be very reassuring then.
It is. It is. I mean, we canvassed this estate actually. We didn't. We didn't actually canvass. Helen and I didn't canvass this road, so because we didn't want to, because we didn't want to go up to our neighbours and say, "Are you going to vote yes?" You know?
Yeah. How, can I ask you then? How aware of are your neighbours of your circumstance then?
I think. Well, I mean,
This is how
yes.
people gossip.
Of
People know
course
things
they
even
do,
if they
of
don't
course
say
they
it to
do.
your face.
okay, one funny incident which I have to say about one of our neighbours. During my transition, I obviously I did very gradually, and I became first slightly androgynous, quite androgynous, very androgynous, and then right, and it was towards the latter end, before I actually fully transitioned, that I said to Helen, listen, I'm going to have to say something to the neighbours.
Yeah.
So I went to one of our next door neighbours and I said, listen, do you want to come in for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, because I have something to tell you. And she came in and she sat here, and when I told her, she went, oh, thank God, because we knew you were going through a change, but we didn't know what name to call you. We didn't know how to, what to say, what to do.
Yeah.
So thank God you said it. We were so embarrassed, So they were really keen to be supportive. Now we've had no trouble whatsoever. We have big signs up in the window, vote yes and so on, right up until the referendum. And indeed, we've had a number of people say that they were 110% behind the referendum. And
I mean, one night after the referendum, we got this big bouquet of flowers with a card from the next door neighbours saying, we're thrilled for you, we're so delighted, so glad, and we know you worked so hard for it.
Oh, yeah.
So our immediate neighbours are absolutely fine. They're grand. We've had a lovely time here, and certainly very, very supportive.
Yeah. You've got a daughter, as I do too, and to me daughters are the ones that you have to take the most into consideration, because it can have the most impact on them. What has been the impact on your daughter as Philippa has been going through transition? Personally and shall we say at school and with friends and all of that?
Okay, as I said, Mick, I took my transition very, very carefully, very slowly, and out of the public eye to a large extent.
What time scale are we talking here for?
Okay, I
She was in 5th class. She was
Yes.
12 years old when she
yeah,
found out.
it's when she found out. I'd been involved in TENI, I'd been involved in TGEU for a couple of years before that, but I'd been basically living a double life where I would change before I came back here, before I came home, and try and keep everything from her, more or less. Yet I was getting stuff addressed to me here, so addressed to Philippa, that is.
Yeah.
So it was kind of dropping the hints without saying it explicitly to her.
Okay.
And she copped on. She realised what was happening. And there was one point when we sat down and we had the discussion with her. And she was very upset. She was worried about her friends. She was worried about her going into secondary school, and what would the effect be. So bearing that in mind, I took it ever so slowly all the time that she was in secondary school. I didn't go to parent-teacher meetings. I barely went to any concerts. Towards the end of her secondary school education, I started going out a little bit more. She got a couple of very close friends, and one of them in particular has been absolutely wonderful for her for kind of 5th year and 6th year, I think it was, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
she was absolute rock.
And she was a rock, and it allowed her to have friends up here, and now there's absolutely no issue at all. She's in university, she's
got 2 mums.
got 2 mums,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Did she ever lose any friends over it? Or
There were the friends she lost. The friends she lost. She found,
Yeah.
not particularly lost friends. You know how kids change during the time.
Yeah.
They can start school with one really, really close friend, and they fall out of that, and then they make new friends, and that's exactly what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
So she didn't really lose any friends, and in fact, most of them were really supportive and said, "Well, we don't care."
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Your parents are great anyway, so that was nice to hear.
What about yourself then, Phil? What about work? I mean, what was the impact there?
Work.
You said you were in the public service. I mean, which can be quite a conservative environment.
Yes, I think my work with Tenny and TGEU allowed me to realise the legal rights that I had, which I'd say a lot of people might be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to my HR department and I said, listen, I'm doing this, I expect to fully transition in the next couple of years, they knew that I knew exactly what I was entitled to and what I could do and what I couldn't do. So from a legal point of view and from a personnel point of view, they were very supportive. They had to be, right? And then socially within work, I was never one of the lads in work, but neither was I one of the girls. I was very much in the middle.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating to see that the guys were distancing themselves from me, including some very close friends. They distanced themselves from me, and I was absolutely embraced by the women in there. And they're always asking me out to nights out and to coffees and what have you. They really, really have been incredibly supportive. And it's terrible to see that.
Yeah.
I'm delighted.
Yeah.
And I've no time for the guys that won't.
Yeah.
It's just they're so uncomfortable with the idea.
Yeah. Did you ever, and I suppose this is being personal in that sense, did you ever, they got brave at the Christmas party?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
because that's about the one time that they might.
I won't say they got brave in that. I know where you're going with that, Mick. No, nobody made a pass at me, but I think there's a couple of guys who are curious. You know,
but they would need a few drinks to get articulate, as we say.
Yeah. There was one. My first real Christmas party in the office. Yeah, one guy was showing far more attention than he should have, but nothing happened. Well, nothing that I'm going to say on camera anyway, because Helen's here beside me.
We've had the referendum, and we had a long discussion as a society about what I think it is to be gay and what it is to have relationships. Have we really had that discussion about what it is to be trans? Because the legislation is going through, but you and I and Helen have been in part of this discussion for the last few years, and it hasn't really been with the wider public. We're getting a bit of a discussion now because of the Caitlyn Jenner case.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Are we getting any more informed, I wonder?
It's hard to know, Mick, because I think, isn't it? It's a case of it's far more easy to be sensationalist about trans because you have the stereotypical trans people on television, or the over the top, or the drag queens who are great in what they are, but the media will look for the spectacular, for the sensationalist, and then tar everybody with the same brush. And that's what's disappointing about it. So that's what makes it difficult to have a decent conversation about what it is to be trans, you know. And every single time we've been interviewed on the radio, it's tell me a bit about yourself. And you know, so a leading radio presenter asked us on air, basically, what do we do in the bedroom?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Does it always come down to that? I mean, when I first met Broden, I mean, that was something we were very conscious of. Media was only interested in genitalia.
Yes.
They weren't interested in the pair of you sitting there and watching Coronation Street. Which is what most of us do most of the time.
Yeah. I know. I think it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's reminded me of a meme that was going around on the internet of what gays get up to at home. It was two guys sitting on a sofa watching TV, eating a TV dinner.
Arguing about who's going to do the washing up,
I mean, good grief, what did they think we do?
Well, yes. Well, this was my other one about about teachers. I was saying, do you think gay teachers teach gay geography or gay physics?
Well, I was reading. I don't know where it was, but it was a matter, if you will. To some people, I'd be putting on my gay jacket, getting my gay car keys out, going down my drive with my gay husband and going to have a gay Chinese meal. Yeah. No, me and my husband are just going to go and have a dinner.
Yeah.
What on earth do you think it is? They talk about gay agenda and it's kind of, go in the morning, ruin somebody's marriage and go off to work. Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. How are we supposed to live our lives if they just can't see beyond the labels?
Yeah. Gender recognition is going through now. Is it all over for you in that sense of the word, or do you feel an obligation to still campaign for those members of, particularly the trans community, who clearly are still not being included in the, as I say, as part of the...
Because of the fact that it's a binary. It's basically it's binary, isn't it? Yeah. Of course, I'll do what I can to help out with. I think, Mick, yes, the legislation is there, but there's so much more to do. Yeah. And Jenny's doing a wonderful job, absolutely wonderful job in the support, in the visibility, in the information. But there are still people who feel the need to just contact individuals within the community. And for instance, just today, I got a call from a girl, trans woman, who hasn't told her wife, was sitting in her car in tears on the phone to me, wearing a little bit of lipstick because it made her feel a little bit femme. She had no other female clothes on, and she says, "Philippa, how do I do this? How can I get anywhere along the line that you are?" Yeah. And there are so many people out there, so I'm going to work in some way to help those sort.
It's been a big fortnight, if you like, with the forced the forced divorce. We're told is going to be removed. We'll trust them on that one. They came out with self-declaration, which came as a surprise, and I think it was a very welcome surprise. But to me, the issue of age was always came across as hugely important. And how do you feel about that, Philippa, particularly having experienced what 15-year-olds would be going through now? Yeah. Do you think the age issue is understood as important as I think it is?
I think people once they hear, oh my God, gender recognition for somebody of 10, 11, 12, 15, whatever, once they're not an adult, how can they possibly choose? And oh my God, surgery. Yeah. Immediately they think it requires, that somebody's looking for surgery. I can speak from personal experience in that I started really identifying as something other than a male, probably around age 10 or 11, 12-ish. And I started experimenting at that stage. Yeah.
And that would be quite late, but from many of the stories I hear.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I don't remember any strong feelings before that. But certainly by age 10, 11, 12, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had
puberty.
Possibly puberty. Yeah. And I tried to keep it hidden. I tried to keep it stop thinking about it and so on. And it was extremely difficult for me because there was no information out there. And I mean, we're talking Ireland in the 70s. Helen came over in the mid-80s, but Ireland in the 70s was backwater. There was nothing out there. So I would sympathise with anybody going through what I was going through then. But now at least the information is out there. And okay, so the gender recognition legislation doesn't cover those people, but at least the support is out there. I think it is vital that, I believe there's going to be a 2-year review, yeah. And I suppose if we can really push for the review to take cognizance of what's happening in the real world, and push the government to see that it's necessary, maybe gradually, maybe reduce it down to 16 and then to 14 or whatever, over time.
I've covered the various joint Oireachtas committees, and there was one I always remember, a lovely lady called Senator Marie Maloney, and when Darren and Victoria were there, she said, "This is the first time I've ever met a trans person." And she said, "But maybe I haven't." And I thought that was wonderful, because she was being very open about it. Do you think it is important that they actually now get to meet real people rather than just conceptual people, the way they certainly were in in what I would call the first gender recognition advisory group? Has that been important, that they got to meet people like yourself?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, the real stories, and we saw that in the Yes Equality campaign as well. The real people, the personal stories made such a difference, and on the doorsteps in the equality referendum, that was what won it for us.
The conversations.
The conversations that we had, and that's why I think that it's so important that trans people, in as much as they can be, it is so much more difficult to come out as trans than it is as gay. But I mean, you can stay closeted, or you can stay private as gay. You don't have to, when you're walking down the street, it's not obvious that you're gay, whereas as a trans person, there's more of a possibility that you'll be recognised or read, and so if you're comfortable being out and talking to people and being in the media, then great. And I think it's really important that people do that.
I think also one thing we did was with and through Tenny, meeting with a lot of the politicians, the senators, our local politicians, writing to them. I know that you mentioned that during one of the more recent debates in the Shannon, Senator Mary White mentioned that she'd met a trans couple, and she said, before that I didn't even know what the issue was about. And that was us. We talked to her, and so we'd opened another pair of eyes, another pair of influential eyes. But there's a lot more going out there now. Caitlyn Jenner's made a big impact on people. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, their daughter Shiloh is now wants to be called John, so Shiloh's becoming a boy, and still very young, and they're very supportive of John. I think there's incidences that are happening, and people are taking a little bit more notice as it's happening. There was the boxing promoter in the UK as well, Kelly. So it's getting more out there. We need to pull back the sensationalism and say, well, it's all very well for these people, but we're the real ones on the ground, and we're the ones who it's going to affect more than them. And we're just as important.
Yes. There was a piece in the Sunday Times, I don't know if you saw it, and the first female to male was actually somebody who was studying in Trinity College. And I wrote a review of this, a book that was written about this person called Michael. And the person had a very sad life. This was in the 50s. And I just wonder, it's from your experience of talking to people, Philippa, is it still easier to be trans from male to female than it is from female to male? Do we still as a society have problems with women, to a certain degree, even taking charge?
Yeah. Well, having only experienced it going one way, I can't,
But you would know, particularly from TEA, you would know people.
I don't know. It's a difficult one. I kind of feel. It's a difficult one. I think it's hard to kind of come to terms with society and the way they look at the two genders, and it looks totally differently.
Yes. Well, this is
Well, I just feel that, looking from the outside in, that I think the person who is going from male to female is probably going to actually have a worse time.
Yeah.
This is because it all depends on the age of the person or the position of the person who's transitioning. Whereas there's only a certain amount that the female hormones can do. From what I've seen of a lot of the female to male transitioning, I think it's a little more successful in terms of the facial hair, etc. You could walk down the street and not notice a trans man.
Yeah.
Seriously, not notice a trans man. There's situations in the US where they're trying to block trans people from using the appropriate bathrooms. And there is a fantastic series of photographs taken by two trans people, one's a man, one's a woman, who've gone into the opposite gender bathrooms, had the photographs taken and said, "You really want me in here?" Big burly biker looking guy in a woman's bathroom, beautiful slender woman in the man's bathroom. You know, whatever's going on in the minds of these people who are trying to do these bathroom bills is really ridiculous, because you know, it's a case of you are who you are. But when it comes to the transitioning, just from my point of view, just visually,
no, the reason why, if at TGEU, if you recall, Ulrika, who was from Sweden, she put up a very poignant piece of video. And in Sweden now they've changed, I believe, but if you were to go from female to male, you were obliged to be sterilised, and I thought, oh, this is getting into Nazi science, and that's why I just wonder, from conversations you might have had with people, what their experiences were.
I think Helen's right. I think it's easier to go from female to male, socially and culturally. I've been accepted within a conservative civil service, yes, but I do feel that it's more difficult to go male to female.
Last but by no means least, and we'll conclude where we started. You probably at one stage felt you were in a galaxy far, far away. Do you now feel you've come home after the 22nd of May?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's just an amazing feeling. And we feel equal, I think.
How about yourself, Helen?
I think, in a way, I've actually gone a full circle. Because when I was married to Philippa when she was male, I was happy walking down the street holding hands. When Philippa changed and became her true self, I began to sense that checking myself that Panty Bliss talked about. Holding hands with a female, because it wasn't something that was natural to me, and I was aware of other people coming there. I couldn't give a toss. We can walk down the street holding hands, and I just feel now that there's a different atmosphere in Ireland. I think Ireland's come of age a little bit more.
Final question. I mean, one of your local councillors rang me about 2 days beforehand, and I said, no, I have no doubt this will go through. And my logic is that I have every confidence in the decency of the ordinary Irish person. You mightn't have, growing up with the Trums and all of that, you mightn't have known that about us. Do you feel that we've actually shown who we are as a nation?
I'm 30 years here. I know that there's a lot of decent, ordinary people who know what's right and what's wrong, and they've come out right.
Philippa and Helen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Mick.
I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.